Good morning. Because and the best geneticists in the world will tell you. Now there are some genetic conditions. Obviously, somebody could have Down syndrome or something. There's lots of genetic issues that somebody can't do anything about. Can you hear me? I see a couple of people there with the number 2s on there. A couple people watching. Can you hear? Give me just a little like there. Give me a thumbs up or something if you can hear. Can you hear that? All right, I'm not sure whether you can hear me. All right, so some people are watching, so I'll assume that you can hear me, and I can't look at the camera anymore. All right, so genetics. Best geneticists in the world, the best in the world, say that no more than 2%, likely only 1% of health problems are due to genetics. Now, that's a far cry from what it was back in the 90s and the early 2000s, because they were saying everything was genetic, right? They said, oh, it's genetic, it's genetic. You could be an addict because of genes. You could have diabetes because of genetics. You could have all these problems because of genetics. And now they say less than 1% of what they thought was due to genetics is actually due to genetics. What that means is it is due to lifestyle and environment. So there's a whole, not a new science, but you hear a lot more about it. It's called epigenetics. And what that means is how your lifestyle and your environment and diet affects whether your genes get turned on or off, right? So your genes can be affected and turned on. You look at it this way. Are you making loads of hormones all day long? Or there are certain times in your life where you're making some hormones and not others? If you look at lab work and you go, why is my thyroid hormone more one day than the next? And the only reason for that is because the genes are turned on and off to produce what you need. So if it stands to reason that if the genes can be turned on and off to produce normal body functions, which is happening all day long, then genes can be turned on and off to produce abnormal body functions. So how do genes get turned on and off to produce abnormal functions? It's due to our lifestyle and environment. And our lifestyle is going to include our diet. It's going to include what we drink. Those are the biggest things, by the way. It's going to be what we're exposed to toxin-wise, things like that. Even our environment from a stress standpoint has an impact on whether our genes get turned on and off in a positive or negative way. So I don't want anybody just to say, well, there's nothing I could do about it because it's genetics. We do some genetic testing in our office. People have a big common gene that is often, when I say often, about 40%, estimated about 40% of the entire population of the planet has a defect in what's called methylation, the MTHFR gene. That's about 40% of the entire population. Does that mean they all have a problem with it? Absolutely not. They may have a mutation to the gene, but it doesn't mean they have a problem with methylation. So what creates that problem with methylation? Lifestyle and environment, so you have to make sure you're doing the right things for your body and your individuals. So what's right for you may not be right for somebody else, but we can't blame it on our genes. There was somebody who a colleague of mine, he said, look, it's genetics loads the gun, okay? Genetics loads the gun, but it is your lifestyle and in your environment that's going to pull the trigger or not. So you can't just blame things on your genetics. You should know your genetics, especially if you're taking medication. There's lots of science and research out there, and a lot of these geneticists out there, they're really high-paid geneticists. They work for pharmaceutical companies so they can determine whether or not you're going to respond well to their studies on their medications before they actually release it. As an example, what's the blood thinner? I'm drawing a blank right now. We have, anyway, there's a blood thinner that it's an estimated 60%, popular blood thinner, by the way, about 60% of the population does not respond genetically well, potentially genetically well, to this particular blood thinner, yet it's prescribed right and left. So it'd be good for you to know your genetics. Get a 23andMe and Ancestry.com and get a pharmacogenetic test done to determine whether or not you respond well to any medication that you're going to be taking and drugs that you might have to take. Hopefully you don't have to take any. That's kind of our goal. So another thing that you have to know, if you want to look at this a different way, your genetics The reason I mentioned that I travel from, I live near Nashville, is because going into Nashville every day, just like almost every major, I'm glad you can see me. I'm sitting at a stoplight now. I'm glad you can hear me. Thanks for responding to that. Just like every city, a major city in the United States has tremendous amounts of traffic that head into the city for work every morning. And I fortunately go the opposite direction of that, but oftentimes you see this highway just packed, right? So if you think of bad genetics as a potential on the highway, so if you have everybody, let's say assume that everybody has a 10-lane highway to get where you're going, and if they had perfect genetics, every single lane would be completely open. All right, great. You go, that's awesome. Like, there's nothing wrong with all these lanes are open. They're possible for traffic, okay? So if you take someone, wow, that sun's bright. I'm sure it's reflecting off my face there. So if you take someone with bad genes, or a genetic mutation, I should say, what can happen is it could mean that a few lanes are blocked, right there. I'm not saying they're blocked with traffic. I'm saying, let's say they're blocked with construction. So that would be like a bad genetic mutation, like an MTHFR. But that does not mean you're going to have a problem getting to work if some lanes are blocked. What would make it a problem for you to get to work is if there's lots of traffic on the highway, right? So the traffic on the highway is going to be that lifestyle and environment. So you can't say it's because the lanes are blocked. 99% of the time, according to the best researchers out there in genetics and epigenetics, 99% of the time it's not due to lanes being blocked. It's due to the amount of traffic on the lanes on the highway. So those lanes are going to be harder to get through and harder to make those processes in your body work. The more toxins you put in your environment, the more stress you put on your body, the worse diet you have. All those things are going to be the things that add up to you expressing your genetic potential in a good way or a bad way. So the point being is, stop blaming your genes on your problem. You can do something about it. I've been saying this for a long time. I've had patients come in and they say, well, I have diabetes, and my dad had diabetes and my grandfather had diabetes, so therefore it's genetic. That's not true. Like 99% of the time, most of the people say that have diabetes because they drink a six-pack every night, and I shouldn't say that. A lot of these cases are like that. I'm not assuming that you do that, but let's say you grew up drinking sweet tea at lunch and dinner, and you drink 3 Coca-Colas a day, and so did your dad, and so did your grandfather. Well, yeah, then you're all going to have diabetes, okay? It's not due to genes, so let's not assume it's a six-pack. That's the wrong way to look at it. Anyway, so it is your lifestyle and your environment that contributes to it. Now, we have patients that come in all the time, and I wanted to bring this up because this is something that's happening. There you go. Is we have patients that come into the office and they say they're sensitive to anything. Any of you watching this right now, do you feel like you're sensitive to every little thing? Like you have food sensitivities to everything? Your diet's down to just eating like rice or something because everything else bothers you, it creates a reaction? Or maybe you're sensitive to every medication out there, like your body's just super sensitive to everything. A lot of times that is due to a genetic mutation with the genes that help your body deal with histamine. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because we see this a lot, and something can be done about it. There are ways to actually help your body clear out that histamine through diet and through supplementation, because sometimes people have a genetic mutation that create that histamine response, and they're just constantly in that high histamine levels because their body doesn't get rid of that histamine. And doctors come along and they say, oh, you're sensitive to everything, we're going to give you an antihistamine. And then the person's putting on weight and they're having all the side effects from the antihistamine without even looking at the fact that there's a genetic mutation there that can contribute to it, and then doing something to help get things off the highway, if you will, and clear out those lanes. Because just suppressing the body's normal functions, that's bad news, right? We don't want to suppress their body's normal functions. It's the reason why in our office, when we look at autoimmune diseases, we're not trying to give somebody a bunch of steroids to suppress the immune system. We're trying to support the body's immune system functioning properly. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I am on the highway now, so I'm going to stop talking. I appreciate you watching. As I always ask every time, you guys are probably tired of me hearing this, but saying this, but I really love it if you would share this. Give me a little thumbs up and some likes, and also comment below. Let me know what you want to hear about. Let me know if there's things that we can talk about that would be helpful to your lifestyle, your health problems. Obviously, there's a limitation that because we can't diagnose you, we can't treat you over the internet, but maybe we can give you some information that would help you. So comment below and let us know if there's information, specific information you'd like to know more about. But give me those likes, give me those thumbs up, and most importantly, please, please, please share. And I hope you have a great day. Bye now.